Tension gripped the room the moment Jasmine Crockett and Steve Scalise sat across from one another during the televised committee hearing. Viewers expected sparks, but no one could have predicted the political explosion that was about to unfold live before millions of eyes across the nation. Scalise began by unleashing a monologue thick with partisan jabs. He accused Democrats of attacking American institutions, throwing buzzwords into the air like confetti, hoping something would stick. But Crockett remained still, eyes locked, notes untouched, waiting to strike. When her turn came, she leaned forward slowly, calmly, as though she were approaching a surgical procedure. "Let me be clear," she began, voice cool and composed. "If you want to talk about institutions being undermined, we can start with your record." The panel fell silent. All eyes turned to her as she continued. "Congressman, how do you stand here and speak of integrity when your voting history betrays working-class Americans time and again?" She didn't raise her voice, but the pressure in her words hit hard. Scalise tried to respond, but Crockett shut it down. "No interruptions. I let you speak, now it's my turn." The audience watching at home was stunned. Rarely had a lawmaker seized control of a hearing with such precision and poise. She wasn't just speaking, she was leading. She dismantled his claims with raw data, referencing legislative votes and public statements he'd made in the past. "You claim to fight for the American people, yet you repeatedly side with corporations and lobbyists while ignoring the communities you represent." Scalise blinked, momentarily stunned. Crockett was just getting warmed up. "You talk about inflation," she said, "yet you oppose measures that would lower prescription drug costs and housing prices. How is that protecting American families?" The blow landed hard. Crockett's voice remained steady, her tone surgical. She went on, "You speak about crime, yet support the very policies that gut communities, ignore mental health, and flood our streets with unchecked firearms." Scalise tried to pivot, bringing up border security. But Crockett countered instantly. "We're not talking about distraction tactics today. We're talking about your hypocrisy. And I came with receipts." She held up documents, facts, numbers, voting records. "This isn't about soundbites," she said. "This is about people's lives." The camera zoomed in on Scalise, who looked increasingly unsettled. For once, he wasn't facing a soft rebuttal. He was in the middle of a full political dissection, and he had no scalpel to defend himself. Crockett's fire was intellectual. She kept the tone respectful but firm. "You refuse to denounce political violence. You play footsie with extremists. Then you show up here and preach unity. Spare us the theater." Her words echoed through the hearing room and across every social media platform broadcasting the moment. On Twitter, hashtags erupted. #CrockettVScalise, #Verbaco, #McRipMoment. TikTok edits followed within minutes. Commentators from CNN to MSNBC replayed the clip. "This was not a debate," one anchor said. "This was a masterclass in political accountability." Crockett held Scalise's record up like a mirror, and he flinched. Viewers couldn't get enough. Clips racked up millions of views. Supporters flooded her inbox, praising her fearlessness. Even critics had to admit, Crockett came prepared, unbothered, and laser-focused. She pivoted to health care. "Your party talks about freedom, yet you fight tooth and nail to deny families access to affordable coverage. What freedom are we talking about, exactly?" Scalise fumbled, offering no real answer. Next came voting rights. "You back bills that suppress black and brown voters," she said. "And then you have the audacity to claim you're protecting democracy." Her tone never wavered, but her message struck with unrelenting force. She brought receipts again, quoting exact clauses, naming co-sponsors, referencing court decisions that challenge GOP suppression efforts. "You don't want fair elections. You want easy wins. There's a difference." Scalise's face turned a deep red. His staff looked nervously at one another. It was clear they hadn't anticipated Crockett would not only match his rhetoric but bury it under a mountain of irrefutable evidence and unapologetic truth. Crockett didn't let up. "You play to your base with culture wars, ignoring real issues like food insecurity, broken infrastructure, and environmental disaster. When are you going to show up for real people?" He tried to invoke religion, claiming moral high ground. Crockett countered swiftly. "There's nothing moral about enabling corruption, suppressing votes, and ignoring the cries of children trapped in poverty." Her performance was clinical, emotionally intelligent yet ruthlessly logical. You stand for photo ops and press releases. I stand for policy that works. That's the difference between us, Congressman. The host interjected, attempting to regain control. Even days after the hearing, clips of Crockett's takedown continued to circulate. From mainstream outlets to independent creators, everyone was analyzing her every word. Her style, calm, fearless, fact-packed, became a case study in how to dismantle political spin without a single ounce of theatrics. College debate teams reviewed her delivery. Professors used her as an example of commanding rhetoric in law schools. Advocacy groups applauded her for standing her ground not with volume, but with verified truth, making it clear that preparation still reigns over propaganda. On Capitol Hill, the silence from certain quarters was deafening. Some lawmakers who had previously aligned with Scalise noticeably distanced themselves. Others took to private calls, warning their own teams to never underestimate Rep. Crockett again. Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett carried on as if nothing had changed. But everything had. Her inbox overflowed. Her team was inundated with requests for interviews, speaking engagements, and support from national organizations inspired by her unapologetic stance. In her own words, "We don't get many chances to cut through the noise. So when the mic is on and the cameras are rolling, we better come with the truth, because that's what our people deserve." That was the philosophy behind her performance. She wasn't just confronting Steve Scalise. She was confronting every talking point, every deflection, every half-truth that gets packaged as leadership. And she was doing it on live TV, where nothing could be edited, nothing could be retracted. Scalise returned to work in silence. His typical defiance had dulled. While his base remained loyal, his critics had more ammunition than ever. And even some of his allies began to question how he'd allowed himself to get publicly dismantled so completely. Crockett didn't celebrate, but the people did. The streets, social feeds, and communities buzzing with conversation about how she represented the fed up, the unheard, the ignored. She had become their voice, their megaphone, their warrior in Congress. And unlike others, she didn't stumble into virality. She earned it. Every line she delivered, every fact she cited, was the result of relentless research and lived experience. She wasn't performing, she was doing her job. Exceptionally. Political strategists scrambled to reanalyze 2024 forecasts. If this energy translates into turnout, one consultant said, we may be looking at a serious shift in power. Crockett lit a fire that's already catching. That fire was justice. That fire was accountability. That fire was a woman in Congress, unafraid to speak truth to power, even when that power was sitting across from her, clutching talking points, trying desperately not to crumble. Editorials praised her clarity. Op-eds titled, "The Crockett Standard," and "Truth Has a New Voice," appeared across respected publications. Young voters, especially women of color, said she gave them hope that the political system could still work for them. Crockett was asked if she'd considered higher office. Her answer, "Right now, I'm focused on the seat I was elected to serve. But if the people ask for more, I'll always be listening." It was humble, but it was also a signal, she's not done climbing. And the timing couldn't be better. In a fractured political climate where too many rely on distraction and drama, Jasmine Crockett stood out for her discipline, her intellect, and her refusal to be bullied by the old guard. Scalise may have thought he could rely on status, on reputation, on party talking points. But what he didn't count on was running into a force that didn't just challenge him, but exposed every weakness he had. This wasn't just about one hearing. It was about decades of evasion finally catching up with those who speak for power while ignoring the powerless. Crockett had kicked the door open, and others were now ready to walk through it. Even her political opponents had to tread carefully now. No one wanted to be the next to get dismantled live, in front of the country, by a woman who'd made it clear, she doesn't play games. She plays for change. Her name is now spoken with respect, with awe, and with a tinge of fear by those who've coasted on complacency. Because Jasmine Crockett doesn't just fight for airtime. She fights for truth, and she wins with it. And if this was just the beginning, the establishment better be ready. Because the Crockett era is coming, and it's driven by something far more powerful than ego or legacy. It's driven by people. It's driven by truth. It's driven by purpose. More hearings will come. More debates. More moments under the bright lights of the American political stage. And when they do, millions will be watching, and waiting, for Jasmine Crockett to step forward once again. Because now, when she speaks, people listen. Not because of spectacle, but because her words carry the weight of truth. And in a system drowning in spin, that weight is revolutionary. So while Steve Scalise retreats into damage control, Jasmine Crockett is building something. A movement. A new vision of political courage. And those who saw that live TV moment will never forget it. It wasn't just a destruction. It was a declaration that facts still matter, that leadership means more than titles, and that the next generation of lawmakers isn't asking for space. They're taking it. Jasmine Crockett took the mic and turned it into a sword. And in doing so, she reminded us all that the fight for justice never ends, it just finds new voices. Stronger ones, louder ones, sharper ones. And now, Steve Scalise knows that voice by name. And so does the world.